this is something that happens to so many of us, navigating the tricky situations as your parents get older.
The relationship between you and your parents and then you and your siblings can face so many new challenges. So we're talking about how to deal with aging parents in today's relationship reboot. Joining us now is our relationship guru, Dr. Kirsten Lind Seal. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is a tough one. This statistic, 65% of older people who need long-term care, they rely on family and friends.
Exactly.
You end up, I've seen this in my family where my in-laws became full-time caregivers.
Exactly.
Which is beautiful if you can.
Right, right.
But it's challenging.
It's challenging, and the thing that happens is, I mean, not only is there the relationship between you, if you're the caregiver, and your parents, but the other piece that's bigger is the relationship between you and your siblings, kind of figuring out how to spread the burden out. And this is where a lot of families come into conflict, is with that.
I know my family has dealt with that. You know, it is tough because some people live closer and the burden gets put on them a little bit more.
You can never share the burden, right? Equally?
No, I mean,
there's always someone who steps up.
But I think it's holding on to that relationship with your sibling that's important.
No, it's really important, because what you need is the family support around you. And it's interesting because there's a pretty strong gender divide with this, is that daughters tend to step up more than sons. But here's what's interesting. It's not that the sons are all just like lying around eating donuts, although in fact some maybe.
It's a male problem.
But actually often what happens, like for instance, I'm the oldest daughter. I have two younger brothers, and so when I sort of take charge, there's sort of an element of like, oh, I get to control things. You know, so there's that piece when people do that, and at the same time, then when you are caring for your parents, it can start to be really a lot.
There can be resentment in both directions. You have the controlling one who wants control, and then that person often has resentment that the other kids aren't doing more.
Why aren't you guys doing something? Exactly.
So what do you do?
So one of the first things to do is to have a conversation with your siblings, and this sounds so simple, but it's what we know about relationships. When there's clear communication going on, things go better. And the other thing that's important, if as much as possible, is to do this in person. Like if you can actually be in person, really important. Next best is like Skype or FaceTime, because the nonverbals are so important, right? And then the third choice is phone, and there's a lot of different things where you can do conference calls. My brothers and I once, when my dad was ill, we did a conference call, and that was so helpful to all. It was like we were all in the room. The worst, I would totally not recommend email communication or text, because no matter how many emoticons you use, you're not there in the room, and it's really easy to be misunderstood and to misunderstand.
You also need to take time and make sure that, I mean, this is a lot to deal with. You're dealing with an aging parent that can be very stressful, so taking time to take care of yourself as much as you're taking care of other people.
Exactly, and that's always hard, because people always say, well, I don't have time, but the fact is, if you start to crumble, you know, it's like the metaphor is of the oxygen mask. You're flying, you need to put your own oxygen mask on before you put it on your more vulnerable partner.
Keeping the lines of communication open, I think it's one of those things where you say you want to do it, but it does take an effort, doesn't it?
Right. And so here's where some intentionality can really come in. You do have a choice whether you want to sort of turn towards, you know, and have the family turn towards one another for support, as opposed to we're all going to be on our own, or I'm mad at you for this thing that you did to me in 11th grade. And I mean, all those things are there, but this is where sort of forgiveness and compassion comes in. And if we can pull ourselves to that place and think, you know what, this is going to be better for everybody if we are just more forgiving towards one another, so that we can band together and help take care of our parents together.
There's going to be conflict. I mean, it's just, it's hard to navigate in that way. At what point does it cross over from being, okay, this is normal, we're going to have some conflict about this, to we need help from someone else?
Right. So I would say, if like, so whether you're the caregiver or not, if you're the person who has been trying to get everybody on the same page or trying to have a conversation, and you're just really running into obstacles like over and over, that's where you might want to consult a family therapist. And so family therapists have specific training to work with families, and this is a situation that comes up a lot. In my practice, I see this a lot, and family therapists have specific trainings to deal with this.
It's normal. It's okay.
It's normal, and it's okay. And it's also not like you're going to be in therapy for a year. I mean, their families often can come like 1 or 2 or 3 times and sort of have this neutral referee. Everybody's voices need to be heard.
Just people should know that this is all very common.
Yes, it's very common, and there are different ways to go about finding support. There's no stigma around, we're going to go see a family therapist, for example, to help, you know, our relationship, so we can help mom and dad.
Really good.
Yeah.
Kirsten, thanks so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.